And everyone. My name is Dawn Abear, and I want to thank you for participating in Voters East of the Industrial Canal Forum. I know it's late, but we got to get started. So first of all, I'd like you to give us your full name, your position, how long you've been in that position, and what seat you are seeking. So we'll start with Judge Love.
Good evening. I am Judge Terry Love, and I presently serve as a judge on the Louisiana 4th Circuit Court of Appeal, where I have served for the past 20 years. Prior to that, 5 years at Civil District Court, and I'm seeking the position of Justice on the Louisiana Supreme Court, District 7.
Thank you. Judge Griffin?
Sure. My name is Piper Griffin. I'm a judge, Piper Danita Griffin. I'm a judge at the District Court, and I've served there for the past almost 20 years.
Thank you. And what position are you seeking?
I'm sorry, Associate Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court, District 7.
Thank you. Judge Jenkins? You're on mute.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Cabrina Jenkins. I'm currently on the Louisiana 4th Circuit Court of Appeal. I was elected in 2012 to that seat, and I am seeking Associate Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court position, District 7.
Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce you to our two committee members who will ask you a series of questions. We have Donna Glapion and Brandon Gilmore. So let's get started.
Good night, ladies. I have a few questions. We're gonna, with the answers, we'll start with Judge Love, then proceed with Judge Johnson, and then Judge Jenkins. My first question is, at what point did you decide to seek the Supreme Court judge seat, and what skills do you possess that qualifies you to preside over this decision?
Well, I think I decided, I would say within the past 2 years, I decided definitely I would seek the position. The skill set that I think I possess is my experience. Having been an appellate judge for 20 years, having attended many universities here in our country, NYU, I returned to law school to the University of Virginia, I've studied at George Mason. I believe I have a skill set of an appellate judge, the opinion writing position, the ability to discuss with my colleagues and reach a conclusion on the law. And I believe that skill set is crucial to be an appellate, to be a chief judge, to be on the Supreme Court. Also, I bring, because of my seniority on the 4th Circuit, I've served in many capacities of leadership. I've served as the chair of our budget committee. I've served as the chair of our docket committee. I led our court's reentry after the pandemic. I've worked on our COOP plan. I believe this administrative experience, along with my appellate court experience, uniquely prepares me to be a justice on the Supreme Court, but also my community service. I'm driven every day by one question. It was the question that Dr. King stated. The life's most persistent question is, what are you doing for others? And I believe as an elected official, I have a responsibility to others. So I mentor young people. I work with the seniors at my church. I believe that our young people is our greatest natural resource. And I like to assist our young people in preparing them for their future. And I believe this gives me a unique perspective as a future justice on the Louisiana Supreme Court.
Thank you, Judge Love. Judge Griffin?
Sure. I think that we have to realize, and I often say when I talk about this position, that all of us are qualified to write opinions. And the Supreme Court does write opinions, and that's an important part of what we do, or what the Supreme Court does. But in addition to that, we have to recognize that the Supreme Court is our leadership and management arm of the entire judiciary. And so in addition to writing opinions, they manage lawyers, they manage judges, they manage the courts. That is the third branch of government. And that for me, the leadership and the management or administrative responsibilities are very important. I have served on my court as a chief judge. I have been a member of just about every committee and chair of just about every committee, including the finance committee, including the committee on technology and others. I also have had the unique opportunity to serve and do continue to serve on many Supreme Court committees. I'm currently on the Supreme Court Budgetary Control Committee, which manages the entire budget for the judiciary system. I'm also on the Supreme Court Committee on bar admissions. On the testing side, having previously served for 10 years as the examiner for the Constitutional Law Bar exam. I also have previously served on the Supreme Court Committee on Judicial Ethics. And I think it's important too that whoever is the next Associate Justice have shown leadership within the judiciary, within the bar. I'm the immediate past president of the Louisiana Judicial Council NBA, which is the African American judges of the state. I am the second vice president of the District Judges Association, which is our largest group of judges in the state. I'm also an immediate president of the Fourth and Fifth Circuit Judges Association, which is the appellate arms in this area. And so I believe that I bring to the fold unique qualities of having been chosen for leadership by my peers on the bench and bar, and having served on committees and continue to serve on committees that are important to the management of the judicial system, because we really have to understand and appreciate that that's a role that the judiciary must take on. The other thing that I do is that I'm a mentor. I mentor many lawyers, I mentor college students and kids. I'm a foster parent, former foster parent, and I've also volunteered throughout this community. And because of that, if you look at the people who are supporting me, you will find that there's a breadth of people that support me because they recognize what I bring to the table, community activism and activism within my profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Griffin. Judge Jenkins.
Thank you. I decided years ago that the ultimate career path for me in the judiciary was the Louisiana Supreme Court. And I would say I started preparing for it 31 years ago when I graduated from Southern University's Law Center. I was a practitioner for 23 years prior to being elected to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal, and that's significant in my preparation to serve now. Both of my opponents have at least 20 plus years on the bench and have been a part of the judiciary that is criticized now as being experiencing racial discrimination and systemic issues that our society is struggling with right now. And what puts me in a very unique position after serving almost 8 years on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal, those 23 years that I was a practitioner and 18 of those years as a criminal defense attorney allows me to be able to bring to the bench the experience of having clients in various walks of life, visiting clients in prisons across the state, having clients that I had to work with to keep their families together because of the immediate shift in their freedom of being arrested and having to serve time in jail. So along with leadership within the judiciary and within the bar comes leadership and guidance as a practitioner that brings that experience that is so important to the bench when it's time for deliberation, when it's time to write opinions, and when it's time to come up with policy for the Louisiana Supreme Court, which is the lead court in the state of Louisiana, the court of last resort. So I have been preparing myself, like I said, for 31 years for this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Jenkins. My next question for you ladies, and we'll start with Judge Love. Have any one of you ever litigated a case before the Supreme Court?
No, as an attorney, I never argued a case before the Supreme Court, no.
Thank you. Judge Griffin?
No, I have not.
Thank you. Judge Jenkins?
I have filed writs before the Louisiana Supreme Court as a
Thank you.
practice attorney.
I'm sorry. Thank you. My next question is, how would you make sure that there's oversight in order to avoid judicial delay, Judge Love?
Judicial delays is an issue that I have worked on for years. First of all, if elected to the Supreme Court, my first goal will be to create a task force to study judicial delays. I am proud to say that I've reviewed my records, and my average time from oral argument to issuing an opinion is 30 days. I pride myself on that. I believe that with the task force, we need to study and realize what is creating the delays. First of all, is record transmission on the appellate level. We need to change some of our laws. The laws have not caught up with the ever advancing technology. Second of all, we do have to, I believe, place more time delays and give more aspirational goals for judges as it relates to getting their work and setting the cases and issuing dispositions. I think the first thing to do is to establish the task force. Then we will review the statistical data from all of the various trial courts and circuits and look to see where the delay is and what causes that delay. Judicial delay is really a problem for the judiciary, because for the public to have confidence in the system, there must be just and there must be timely resolution of matters. So I believe judicial delays and increasing the time delays for and making sure that we're within national averages is my top priority once I become a justice.
Thank you, Judge Love. Judge Griffin?
Thank you. And I'm not sure if I answered your last question. 2 years ago, I decided to run for the Supreme Court. And I will tell you that right now, the Supreme Court does have a system that tracks opinions rendered by judges. It tracks opinions, the opinions rendered by judges on the district court. And it tracks, I think, to some extent, the opinions rendered and how long it takes for opinions on the intermediate appellate court to be rendered. The biggest problem we have is that I don't think judges on the district court often appreciate that when a case is filed, that case needs to be moved through the system in a manner that is efficient and that is effective. And I agree with Judge Love. We need to figure out, get a task force to figure out why judges don't appreciate and understand the need to move their docket. I'm proud to say that I move a very fast-paced docket. And I do that with the citizens of New Orleans in mind, because it is important that people feel like they get timely resolution of the issues that come before the court. And I think that as we prepare this task force, we have to determine, do we need to put in place some other type of procedure that allow for cases not only to just be filed, but for those cases to somehow matriculate through the system in a timely manner so that judges are aware of cases that are just sitting on their docket with nothing happening to them. And so I think it's important that we recognize that the people and the citizens of New Orleans should have timely resolution of matters that come before them. And we as judges need to determine, and the Supreme Court needs to determine what is expected of district court judges as relates to being able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Griffin. Judge Jenkins?
I agree with what my colleagues have already offered for a solution to that, but the only thing that I wanted to add was a couple of things. When we look at new judges coming into the judiciary, there's a lot for those judges to learn, not that they're not qualified, but they were duly elected. So one of the things that may have to also be considered is assisting new judges with management of dockets, and with understanding the process and what the Supreme Court considers delinquent. It is very important that cases are not delayed, but it's even more important that competent rulings and judgments and opinions are issued. It doesn't make sense to beat the clock and you're reversed by the Intermediate Appellate Court or the Louisiana Supreme Court. So understanding and learning that balance for new judges and all judges, I think it's a dialogue that is worth initiating and or continuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Jenkins. My next question, is going to be a two-part question. First part is, why do you believe that voters should elect you? And if elected, what would you do in your first 100 days on the bench, Judge Love?
Well, I believe I am the only candidate in this race who has trial court and appellate court experience. I also have leadership experience by serving as the chair of numerous committees on my court, the Budget Committee, the Docket Committee, having served on the Louisiana Judicial Council, which is the research arm of the Supreme Court. I believe that I'm uniquely prepared with my skill set to become the next justice. But more importantly, I live, as I indicated, by one dictate, being of service to others. And I believe that servant mentality of being able to assist our young people to work toward educating the public about the legal system and civic education. That is another one of my passions. I believe the public needs to understand the judicial process better so they can have more confidence in the process. I would like to also see technology play a greater role in the judicial system. I think if technology was opened up and if the public had an opportunity to really understand the process, they would have more confidence. But more importantly, as a justice, I will always be guided by the fundamental objective of the legal system, equal justice under the law. And further, which is a thought that just stays with me every day, is that true justice is mercy and compassion for one another. And as a justice on the Supreme Court, I would always be guided by that concept.
Thank you, Judge Love. Judge Griffin?
I believe that I'm, like Judge Love says, uniquely prepared. I think we all bring something to the table. The issue is looking at the credentials of each of us and being able to see where we have served. When I take on a task, I try to make a difference where I am. And I have worked with the Supreme Court on various committees. I've worked with the judiciary, worked with lawyers, worked within the bar to make a difference. And it's my work ethic, it's my scholarship that I think make me uniquely qualified. Leadership is important. Leadership and understanding how the court works, understanding the need for us to have someone who can't fill the shoes of Justice Johnson. That's not going to happen, but who can begin taking on the roles that Justice Johnson began. She has begun a lot of initiatives under her tenure, the Reinvestment Task Force that deals with recidivism and deals with the whole issue of our criminal justice system and the need to reduce the number of criminals or the number of people in jails in the state of Louisiana. And those types of reforms within our court system need to continue. We need to make sure that we're dealing with, on the criminal level, not just locking people up, but making a determination as to why they've committed those crimes. If you're a first offender, we should, as the Supreme Court, encourage judges to understand and appreciate. If I've got a drug problem, send me to drug court. Allow me to figure out if I can kick this drug habit and not then return to the system. If it's a mental issue, if there's something else going on, send me to mental health court so that I can have an opportunity to get better, not to decompose or to get worse within the criminal justice system. Within my first 100 days, I will make sure that I understand and appreciate which courts need these additional courts, that I appreciate and understand which courts need, as Judge Love, some help with technology. In a post-COVID world, we have to understand and appreciate that something like COVID should not bring the judicial branch of government to a screeching halt. There still should be an ability for people to access courts, an ability for people to hopefully be able to move some of their cases along. That whole conversation about not being able to get rid of cases in a timely fashion. We need to be able to make sure that we equip judges and equip courts with what they need to be effective in this society. We also need to be mindful of the need to address the problems that are going on with systemic racism. And we need to be able to make sure that as we move forward, that we have conversations with judges and with lawyers so that they can appreciate that the system's not perfect and that there are opportunities for us to answer some of those questions that exist as relates to the system being able to be equal to all. And so within those 100 days, I'd look at those issues and try to see if we can put in place mechanism by which we can address some of these issues that are really plaguing our criminal justice and our regular court system. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Griffin. Judge Jenkins?
I'm actually very proud to be amongst the candidates for the Louisiana Supreme Court Justice seat, considering that all of us are qualified. We all meet the bare minimum of having the number of years out of law school, and then we begin to build from there. The public has an opportunity to study our background. The public has the opportunity to make a determination of what's important to them when they look at who is elected from the minority district, District 7 of the Louisiana Supreme Court. There's 7 justices. We're the only minority seat. The rest of the justices are white males that have been elected, and traditionally it has been white males. Justice Johnson is only the second person of color, a Black person, that has been elected to Louisiana Supreme Court. Earlier this year, the Louisiana Supreme Court was renamed for the Chief Justice Calagaro. Chief Justice Calagaro was not a district court judge. He was not an appellate court judge. The public saw fit to elect a practitioner to the highest court on this state to make very important policy decisions for the judiciary, to write opinions for the judiciary. And I always have looked and studied that because I ran for judge years ago and I was not successful. And I kept saying, well, how in the world am I ever going to position myself to have the opportunity to run for the Louisiana Supreme Court? And I would always think about Chief Justice Calagaro and his tenure and what he did to get here. So I offer to the public something very different from my opponents. And that is 23 years as a practitioner. When judges and justices come together to make decisions, we bring everything to the table. We bring our culture, we bring our personal experiences, we bring our professional experiences. And to have practiced law for that long and not so recently coming from the bar, I think it puts me in a position where, first of all, the public may feel more comfortable that I can identify and associate with the issues that sometimes plague our communities, even though the judiciary does not intentionally want the consequences that we see from the civil justice and the criminal justice system. It does exist. So I offer that comfort that I have been there with clients, representing persons accused of crimes, representing victims and their families. And I that has not left me. I'm not an advocate But what it does is allows me to consider all of that experience and use that when I render a decision through an opinion. The first 100 days, of course, will be familiarizing myself with the structure and the procedure for the Louisiana Supreme Court. It will be also one priority for me are behavioral health courts, as Judge Griffin talked about, mental health, addiction to drugs, and other ills of society that don't necessarily need to be penalized in our criminal justice system, nor should they be ignored in our civil justice system. Some of the issues that we see with custody cases where parents are so strung out or addicted to drugs or have mental health issues, they can't take care of their children. And you have grandparents coming in trying to do what they need to do to take care of their grandchildren. That's on the civil side. So we have not addressed as a judiciary as much as we have on the criminal side. What do we do with persons that have behavioral health issues that need to be dealt with? So that's one of my priorities within my first 100 days as an associate justice on the Louisiana Supreme Court. Thank you.
And I did not answer the part about the 100 days. Is it possible I could answer that? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes, ma'am, that's fine.
My first 100 days would be to address and to get to know. I think one thing about the appellate process that we all have to remember, everything operates by seniority. I can have all the best ideas as a new justice on how I will carry out plans, but I will have to work with the senior judges on the court on the various committees. And my first 100 days would be working with those justices to gain the expertise from them and to put my history of work ethic and my history of administrative service to use. But I think the most important thing is building relationships with those justices, because we can have all the grand ideas and plans we have, but you cannot execute anything on the appellate process without the senior judge of the various committees working with you.
Thank you, Judge Love. I'm about to turn it over to Ms. Glapion. I just want to tell all three of you ladies thank you. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate y'all three for running for this seat. This is historic. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you,
Ms.
Mary.
Donna.
Good evening, judges. Thank you all. It's good to see you. And thank you for participating this evening so that the people of this great city will be able to see and review your responses and make their decision in this race. First question, I think we're gonna keep the same order. Judge Love, then Judge Griffin, then Judge Jenkins. My first question is a matter of due diligence. Have either of you been disciplined by the bar?
No.
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 Thank you. Second question. Have you been involved in a case that has set judicial precedent in any capacity?
Well, all the cases that I author on the court do establish judicial precedent. I've authored over 700 opinions in my 20 years, and they all establish precedent unless they are reversed by the Supreme Court.
Judge Griffin?
And I would say too that I make decisions every day. Those cases are then reviewed by the Intermediate Appellate Court and ultimately by the Supreme Court. So to the extent that my decisions are upheld, and yes, I guess I would say I've set judicial precedent. To the extent that they may have been reversed upon review, then they have made precedent that has been overturned. So I'm not sure that I can speak to any specific case that has done anything in particular. I have worked helped to work with the Law Institute in preparing new laws, and those things I can speak to, especially as relates to the motion for summary judgment law. I sat on the committee that actually drafted that law, was the only district court judge on that committee. And so that, to that extent, I've helped to shape and fashion laws in my work on the Law Institute.
Thank you. Judge Jenkins.
The only thing I want to add is that it's very few cases that are coming to us, cases of first impression where there has not already been a ruling. So other than a handful of those over the last almost 8 years since I've been on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal, there's not any one particular that I can think of. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question. Describe your, if any, community programs you've worked with or implemented for the African American community.
You want me to begin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. I work with College Track extensively. I've been a mentor with College Track for the past 15 years. During the summer, I host a Lunch and Learn series for the students. I've hosted law days for the students of College Track. I have been immensely involved with the workings of College Track for the past 12 years. Also, I've worked with Job One in working with young people with interview skills, with job application skills. I'm a firm believer that every student is not going to attend college, and that we need to work with our young people to expose them to job readiness skills. One of my first tasks when I arrived on the Fourth Circuit, and it was a struggle, was to create a summer jobs program. It took me probably 2 to 3 years to be able to convince my colleagues that the creation of a summer jobs program was important. And during the summer, I conducted lunch and learns for the students who worked at the court. I exposed them to the judicial process. I taught them skill sets on writing resumes. I taught them skill sets on their professional appearance. I host Black History essay contests every year for our young people. The first thing I did when I was elected to the Civil District Court in 1995, I hosted a week-long program for young people on sexual health. And also I exposed the young people to service opportunities. I just work daily with young people. That is what I do. And that is what I believe is of the utmost importance to this community. But I also work with our seniors. I'm the activity director for the seniors at my church. And further, for the past 2 years, it has been a privilege and honor to serve as the chair of the City of New Orleans Dr. King Holiday Celebration. And I am extremely proud of where that week-long celebration and honoring of Dr. King's legacy has gone. And I always work to make sure we expose our young people to Dr. King's work. I have a total commitment to young people. And one of the things I think, having raised 2 children myself and being the product of 2 educators, I just believe in lifelong learning, exposure, and mentorship. And also working with young people keeps you young too. And I believe my commitment to our young people is the greatest thing that I can do as a public servant for our community.
Thank you, Judge. Judge Griffin.
I'm one of 5 graduates of Xavier Prep who helped to keep the school open when the nuns chose to close the school. And I mention that because what I realized is, as Judge Love says, education is so important. And so even though I did not found Xavier Prep, I'm proud of the fact that I was one of the people who was able to help keep an institution that I think is very important to this community and helped to give me and make me the person that I am an opportunity to continue to move forward and thrive. Up until recently, I was very active with the school, but clearly my role in running for this office has limited my ability to do that. And so I stepped down and told someone else needs to lead. I'm also very, very active in my church. And one of the things that I've done in my church is I'm active with the feeding program. We have a feeding program every Thursday. And so even though my job and my docket is so hectic and so busy at the Civil District Court, I take it upon myself every year to dedicate myself to making sure that the feeding program has what I consider a phenomenal Christmas celebration. And that celebration is done not with me catering food and not with me going and buy food from other places, but for me taking the time to cook food for the people who are part of the feeding program so that they can feel the love that I think is so important that we all feel with our family and friends around the holidays. And I've worked also extensively. I'm immediate past president of my Links chapter, the Crescent City chapter of Links, and I've worked with them exclusively.
I think
And especially as relates to voter education within a high school, us don't understand and appreciate that in fact, the need to educate and be prepared to vote and vote significantly. All of this began for some of these kids with Barack Obama's candidacy. But I think that after Barack Obama got elected, some of them either don't understand that they can get registered or don't understand the importance of the need for them to make sure that they participate in the process. And so I've worked really hard with other coalitions to make sure that that voter education within the schools is there and available to them. Other than that, I primarily served on boards. I primarily served to help with volunteer organizations. People laugh at me because I don't even remember some of the things that I've done during the course of my career, some of the volunteer efforts that I've made. And so to the extent that, like Judge Love says, you know, you love your seniors, you love your kids, and you try to do what's best for them. I've served as a mentor to many, both in the educational system, as far as them going to college and as far as them going to law school. And I've also served as a foster mother, trying to help one kid, make sure that one kid was not part of the system. And that's probably the extent of it, except again, I recommend that you look at my resume and see some of the other things that I've done because I really don't think about them often.
Thank you, Judge. Judge Jenkins.
Thank you. And I'm going to start by asking you all to look at my website because I know I'm not going to catch everything. And you can see the details at sandrajenkins.com. But I also have quite a bit of community service, you know, way back from high school. One of the things that I did after I was elected as judge was start Judge Jenkins Law Camps. I think that was like in 2015 probably. And the purpose of that law camp was to educate the public. It kind of like stirred up in me after the Ferguson incident, and there were so many commentaries and so many people talking about the criminal justice system and so much misinformation. So I decided to have my first law camp, which was a criminal justice law camp, inviting stakeholders such as the U.S. Attorney's Office representative, the District Attorney's Office representative, a criminal defense attorney, clergy. And we just sat and had a discussion. Over 100 people showed up for the first law camp. And that told me something, that's an element that's missing within our community, to hear from us, not just as judges when you're coming into court and you're stressed, but to be out there and educate. So that's a big thing for me, teaching. And with the law camps has developed 3 distinct categories. Justice Without Bias, which tackles the constitutional issues. What happens when you're stopped? What rights do the officers have, and what should you do? Then I have Law, Body, and Soul, which is a marriage between spirituality and law. I am a licensed minister at First Emmanuel Baptist Church, and I've been a part of ministry for over 30 years since I've been here in New Orleans and joined fellowship with that church. It covers things such as violence against women and girls. It covers things such as modern day slavery and human trafficking within ministry. I'm also over what is called Sisters of Tamar, which addresses sexual violence against women and girls. And then finally, I have a law camp that's called the Civility of Civics, and that's just plain old 8th grade civics, understanding government, understanding your responsibility as a citizen with voting, with serving on a jury. I've been a CASA, court-appointed special advocate for abused and neglected children. I have worked with HELP, which is, as an attorney, you volunteer for the homeless population, and eventually I became an accredited VA attorney, which helps veterans fill out their forms so that they can get benefits. I also am a part of Girl Track, was a health movement for Black women. I serve at the Governor's Pleasure on the Women's Incarceration Task Force. And what that task force does is look at the policies in DOC for women that are incarcerated, which is mostly us, and a very high percentage, over 80% of the women incarcerated have experienced sexual violence and or domestic violence. So looking at getting that help for them while they're within custody, so when they leave, they can enter back into society stronger and with tools and mechanisms for coping and different things like that. I'm gonna stop talking again. You can check out my campaign website. It gives you much more information. I love working with the community. It's a part of me, and it's not gonna stop once I am allowed to serve as an associate justice on the Louisiana Supreme Court. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, ladies, I want to thank you, and as an African-American woman, I'm very proud to see all of you running for this position. I know it's a really hard time running for anything during this COVID-19 time. So I really wish you the best of luck in the campaign, and we're hoping that a lot of viewers do listen and see this video when it is aired. So thank you very much. It's late, so good luck and good night.